A young med student with his life ahead of him vanished after a night out with friends. For over a decade, his family searched and held on to hope, even without any real leads. Did he simply leave to start a new life? Did he die in an accident or by suicide? Or was something more sinister at play? This week's episode is The Disappearance of Brian Shaffer. A bump in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood.
This has been a hot one that we've had many, many requests for. What we realized via the beauty of Facebook and their popping up old posts 2 years ago.
Yes, Brian Harrington.
Our dear friend Brian Harrington that everyone knows and loves at this point. What did he post?
Posted, it was on November, I want to say it was a couple days ago, the end of November of 2018, and he tagged us both. He posted it on his own timeline, but tagged us both and said, "Last night I couldn't sleep and went down a rabbit hole that led to the 2006 disappearance of Brian Shaffer and decided I could use the internet in a way no one ever had to solve this mystery from my bed at 3 a.m. I don't know why, but it didn't work." And then he tagged us and said, "Please help." And you said emphatically right away, "Together we can solve this," to which I responded, "Let's do it." And 2 years later, here we are.
Here we are. And what I love about that post is he speaks for everyone on the internet.
Yes.
This is one of those internet sleuth, armchair detective cases that has just taken Reddit, the internet, tons of forums by storm, that everyone thinks they have the theory of what happened in this case.
And you see on the posts on the forums, somebody will come on and say, "You guys already know the background. Anyway, just wanted to let you know my theory." And of course, they think they've come up with something totally off the wall. And all the comments are like, "We already thought about that. Yeah. And here's 5 reasons why it won't work." And just like, deflation.
I read one today that this Redditor was very confident. It was, "Here's my theory. It's rock solid." And then I was reading it. I was like, this is not even close to rock solid. And then every comment was like, "Rock solid? Really? Here's 1,000 holes I'm going to poke in this." It was complete conjecture and speculation, all of everything he was saying. I was like, and that's the thing with this case. There is no rock solid because there's no clues. There's a video and there's a couple people that were with him that night. Apart from that, there's nothing.
Well, they were with him until the most important moment, and then they weren't with him.
Yes.
So really, all there is stuff that happened before the incident. There isn't even like, you always say you wanted to solve, if we could pick any crime, solve like JonBenet. Well, there's at least pieces of evidence there. There's a body. There's a crime scene, things, possible
tangible
murder
evidence,
weapons.
Suspects.
Granted, the cops touched all over it and messed it up. But it's literally nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. And these are the cases that when people ask, what cases would you like solved the most? It's cases like this. These are the cases that I enjoy covering the most and that also keep me up at night because I like puzzles. I like mind puzzles and trying to figure things out. And that's what this is. But also just thinking about the closure that it would provide for the family. His poor brother at this point has lost so much. But yeah, these are the cases that, like Bryce Laspisa, the Lost Girls of Panama, all of those cases are the ones that stick with me the most because they're unsolved.
Yeah, and even with like Ray Rivera, you want to know what happened, but you at least have a body and you at least have like a cause of death. Maybe you don't know exactly how that cause came about, but you at least know some tangible closure. You're not burying an empty casket. Yeah. Or in this case, not at all, leaving the door open, hoping that you'll hear from him.
Right. Yeah.
It's something about the hope versus, you don't want to lose the hope almost. You almost like feel like as a family member, I owe it to them to like hold this flame, light, keep this candle lit. but also from a healing perspective,
Yeah.
like at what point do you need to say, I'm never going to see my brother again?
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah, that's what keeps me up about these cases is putting myself in the shoes of someone like this. And yeah, when do you move on? Like you said, I mean, because you never want to give up that hope. Like maybe he's out there somewhere, but at the same time, does it become at some point unhealthy?
Yeah.
I guess it's how you deal with it and how you handle it and everything. But it's certainly heartbreaking. It's certainly one that has gripped the internet for over a decade now. And we've had just alone, I did a cursory search of people that have suggested this. We have Brian, we have Rachel B., Linda Gilligan, Lilius, and Jen Davidson from Capital Chips. She's sending us some free chips, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Not because we covered this. This was before.
We
don't say like, yeah, we'll do your case if you send us free stuff.
No.
Grease the wheel. Yeah. So we've had a ton of suggestions for this, and I've wanted to cover it ever since we did Bryce. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, and I don't know, we don't have that far of a reach, but maybe somebody knows somebody that knows something.
You know, again, yes, I'm not saying we're the ones that are going to break this case and it's going to get solved. But several podcasts in the past few years have brought attention to old cases and cold cases that are getting the attention they deserve now, and some have even been solved or they're on the way to being solved. So, yeah, I mean, any podcast that covers a case that's unsolved, if anyone out there knows anything, contact Crime Stoppers, and we'll give that number at the end. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. Brian Shaffer was born February 25th, 1979, in Pickering, Ohio, to Renee, a nurse, and her husband, Randy. Brian's parents doted on their sons, Brian and his older brother, Derek, and encouraged Brian's incredible tennis talent. Soon, though, Brian traded his racket for a microscope and followed in his mom's footsteps, joining the medical field. So he is almost my age. I'm January 4th, 1979. So, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Gosh. And just think of all that you've done since 2006.
Right? Yeah.
And that's life that he either didn't get to lead or is leading somewhere else.
Living somewhere that no one knows about, right? Brian began medical school in 2004 at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. He had attended the same university for undergrad, earning a degree in microbiology. Despite being busy with school, Brian made time to visit with his mother, who was battling myelodysplasia, a type of bone marrow cancer. In his first year of medical school, Brian met Alexis Wagner, a fellow student. Alexis spotted Brian in one of their first classes and mentioned to a friend that she found him cute. That friend told Brian, and the two began dating. Alexis called their relationship normal and happy, though centered around medical school.
Yeah, she said it was real flirty and cute at first. They went to a concert together and then went out on a couple dates and then kind of became inseparable after that. And just a normal, when you're meet somebody in undergrad or grad school, you're like, okay, let's study together. Okay, what classes are you taking? What classes am I taking? So they're just a cute little couple.
And med school is so demanding too that if you're with someone that is going through the same thing, you understand that like I can't go out tonight. We have stuff to do. If it's somebody in med school and then someone, I don't know, like myself that was a psychology major, perhaps you're not as understanding when they can't spend all their time with you. I never dated somebody that was pre-med though.
Yeah, that med school is worse than law school.
You think?
By far. Oh yeah, it's longer. There's so much more involved. And it's so it's like test based. Like they make you take a test part way through and it's a whole deal. Yeah. That determines then like what you specialize in, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it also gets confusing. Most of what I know about how it all works is from Grey's Anatomy. But after you graduate, then you have like residency and then you have internships, or maybe those are reversed. And there's
all kinds of, it's just years. You don't get into it. It's interesting that as we'll learn about Brian's personality, that he chose this lengthy career path.
Yeah. On March 6, 2006, Renee lost her years-long battle with cancer. According to Brian's family and friends, his mom had been his confidant and hero. Although Brian was understandably sad, those close to him said he handled her passing well.
It's not easy to lose a parent, but yeah, they didn't say, oh, he started drinking, he wouldn't get out of bed. It was just like, I think with something like cancer, it's kind of coming and you can emotionally prepare yourself, especially if he's a med student. He probably understands statistics and how the treatment was working or not working.
Yeah, definitely. Before she passed, Renee had gifted her son and his girlfriend, Alexis, a trip to Miami for their upcoming spring break. The couple was looking forward to the vacation, seeing it as a time to heal and a nice break from the stresses of grad school. It was also rumored Brian would be proposing to Alexis while in sunny Florida. The trip was planned for April 3rd. However, just days before they were scheduled to leave, Brian disappeared. March 31st, 2006 was the last day of classes for Brian before spring break officially began. He had been nonstop studying for exams all week. At a steak dinner that night with his dad, Randy noticed how exhausted Brian looked. Despite having a long, tiring week, Brian told his dad he was going to meet up with a friend after dinner.
There's nothing you could do in situations like this. You can't go back in time, but you just wonder if he was like, you know what, Dad was right. I am tired. And he had gone home and gone to bed that night.
Yeah. Well, and some say, as with any of these things, a lot of it is, well, this person said this and this person said that. Some said that his dad didn't even say anything to him at dinner. He just kept it to himself. So in that case, you also wonder, as the dad, man, if I had told him, like, Brian, you shouldn't be going out tonight, if he would have listened to him. And he did tell reporters later that he didn't understand why he was going out because he was so exhausted. His mom had died just 3 weeks earlier. They had this trip coming up, but perhaps that is why he went out.
Yeah, blow off some steam.
Yeah, and school was over and he wanted just to get his mind off things. Around 9 p.m., Brian met up with his friend and former roommate, William Clint Florence. According to findbrianshaffer.com, at around 9:30 p.m., the two men landed at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar located near the OSU campus. At 9:56 p.m., Brian called Alexis, who was home visiting her family in Toledo, and told her he loved her and that he would see her when she came back to Columbus for their trip. Brian and Clint then left the Ugly Tuna and walked nearly 2 miles down to the Arena District in Columbus, an area known for concerts and bars. Along the way, the men made several stops, imbibing in a shot of hard liquor at each bar, according to True Crime Society. At one of the bars, the North Shore Tavern, they met up with Meredith Reed, a friend of both Brian and Clint. The three enjoyed some drinks before Meredith offered to drive them back to the Ugly Tuna, and offer the inebriated guys happily accepted.
So pretty much up until this, everybody knows where he was, what he's doing, and who he's with.
Yes. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. That we know of.
Yeah.
CCTV footage puts the group ascending the escalator to the Ugly Tuna's entrance at 1:15 a.m. on Saturday, April 1st. Timestamp footage at 1:55 a.m. shows Brian in the lobby outside the bar, at the top of the escalators, talking with two girls. He appears to make a goodbye gesture before heading back toward the bar and out of the camera's view. That footage is the last time Brian was seen alive, wearing his olive green short-sleeve polo shirt with a white long-sleeve shirt under it, jeans, Adidas tennis shoes, and a yellow cancer awareness bracelet.
Yeah, so you see him go from there's places like this in Chicago. Are there places like this in Dallas?
The place, I don't think it's an escalator, but, what's that piano bar? Pete's Stealing Piano Bar in Addison.
Yes,
it's kind of upstairs. It's stairs. You have to get, but yeah, there's bars like in an area that's almost kind of like an outdoor mini mall or something like that. And you go there were doors at the bottom that led interior, and then you go landing. You go up an escalator, and then the bar was on the top floor.
And there's a second landing, and then you have to walk past the escalators across the landing into the bar.
Yeah. So this is where things start to get, I don't even want to say weird, because you really don't know if anything weird is going on. But this is the only footage that anyone has. He enters the bar, by all accounts. He's seen then 40 minutes later or something talking to these two girls who don't appear to be friends, because nothing is ever mentioned that the girls say, oh yeah, that was our friend Brian, or like,
No.
It's just he was talking to two girls outside the bar. So it could have been girls he just met at the bar. Maybe they ran into him at a bar earlier and then ran into him at this bar or something like that. Then when he turns around to go back, this is where it gets a little tricky, because he goes in the direction of the Ugly Tuna Saloona, which is
Yikes.
quite a name. But there's no camera showing him actually going back in the bar.
Correct. He walks. So the camera is facing down the escalators, and behind the camera is the door. So he walks from the escalators toward the camera, out of the camera's view, presumably through the doors of the bar, because that's all that's there.
Yeah. And there's no footage of him going back down the escalator. So
correct.
I mean, it's 99% proof positive that he went back in the bar.
Yeah.
After the bar closed at 2 a.m. and security turned the lights up, Brian's friends looked everywhere for him, but he was nowhere to be found. They checked the bathroom and all around the club. When those efforts yielded no results, both Clint and Meredith repeatedly called Brian's singular wireless silver flip phone, but got no answer. Brian lived in an apartment in King Avenue, about a 10 to 12 minute drive from the bar. After being unable to locate or reach him, his friends concluded that he must have made his way back home and fallen asleep for the night.
So, I mean, I'm not disparaging the male sex, but I feel like if I was a girl and I was out of the gal pal and I couldn't find her, I would freak out immediately.
I would not leave you at a bar and think you left. At the same time, it's 2 a.m. That's what time bars close around here.
True.
And they're looking all around. The staff's looking for him. No one can find him. They're calling him.
I would have called the police that night.
Yeah, I think that's what. But I really do think there is something like, if it had been Meredith they couldn't find,
may have been different.
Maybe it would have been different, and that's especially back in 2006.
Yeah.
I mean,
but also if you're used to hanging out with a crew that's like, I'll never leave you, you never leave me.
Right.
But who knows? They may have been like, we're not, attached at the hip. Leave whenever you want, dude. I don't care.
Yeah.
It may have been real casual of like, I'm not going to track him down. He's a grown up. He can do whatever he wants.
He was very athletic, 6'2", very handsome man. I mean, by all accounts, he could take care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing is, and this probably may have played into their decision that he left and they decided to leave, was they're all shit-faced.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's where everybody's thinking gets a little blurred at 2 a.m. when the lights come up.
It's true. I mean, and there was no Uber down back then, so maybe they thought he took a cab or walked.
Yeah.
And
I read on one blog that it was a 10 to 12 minute drive, so they concluded it would have been an hour and 40-minute walk, which seems like...
Well, it seems like a lot.
A lot, but I guess... But also, if you're shit-faced...
Yeah, it's a stumble.
That's a long, long walk that you may not even make.
Yeah.
The next morning, on April 1st, Alexis called Brian's cell, but it went straight to voicemail. Assuming he was sleeping off a hangover, she didn't think anything of it. But as the day went on and she still couldn't reach him, Alexis became worried and called Brian's dad, Randy. Randy headed to his son's apartment. When he arrived, everything seemed to be just as Brian had left it the day before. The bed was made and Brian's car was in the parking lot. However, there was no sign of Brian. Now worried, Randy filed a missing persons report with the police. Oh,
yeah, I mean, that's when you start.
Yeah.
Your stomach drops.
Absolutely. And especially, it was very out of character for him, they said, to not come home, to not be in contact with Alexis or anything. His car's there. There's no sign he's been home, though. Been in. I mean, it is a stomach drop moment for sure. The flight to Miami, scheduled for Monday, April 3rd, came and went, but Brian never boarded the plane. The Columbus Police Department then increased their search efforts. Sergeant John Hurst headed up the team and began his investigation with ensuring Brian boarded no other flights. When they were satisfied he hadn't flown out of Columbus, the police turned their eye toward the surveillance footage at the bar.
I mean, that's the first thing you think. Hey, you got a flight booked. Maybe he, jetted.
Yeah.
But all you have is that footage.
That's all you have. According to Sergeant Hurst, every exit at the Ugly Tuna is covered by a security camera. However, there was one exception, a back door that led to a construction zone. Other CCTV footage from nearby bars was also looked at, hoping to catch a shot of Brian on the street. Nothing was found. So the area where Ugly Tuna is, or was, I don't know if it's
no
still
longer
this way.
there. It's something else now.
That's something else. But as far as the area, it was known for a lot of crime.
Mm-hmm.
And one reason the Ugly Tuna and kind of the bars around that area were put in this, in the way they were, was to attract students to come to the university, because it was like right across the street from the campus, and to kind of switch the vibe that was going on down there. However, it was still known for a lot of crime.
Mm-hmm. They tried to spruce it up, safety in numbers, put a bunch of businesses together, but it would make sense then that you would want to have cameras on every door, so in case anybody breaks in.
And that's why they had all these cameras, was for that very reason. As the investigation continued, authorities asked those closest to Brian to take polygraph tests. Most agreed and passed, including Brian's dad, brother, girlfriend, Meredith Reed, and the two girls Brian was last seen talking to by the escalator. However, one person that was with Brian the night of his disappearance refused. Brian's friend, Clint Florence. So this is I feel like there's like three things in this case that we can speculate on. This is one of them.
I would say if you and I were out and you went missing and I didn't know what happened to you and they wanted me to take a lie detector test, first of all, I would not talk to the cops without a lawyer. Second of all, I would go tell them to fuck themselves. I would say no.
You wouldn't take a lie detector test?
No. First of all, they're shitty. They don't tell you anything. And second of all, what if they go, did you stab Christy in the face? And I'm like, no. But then I think about something else and then my heart races. My heart's racing now. And I'm like, oh God. And they're like, she stabbed her in the face. We know it. We have the polygraph. Like, why would you walk into that lion's den so for whatever, everyone uses this to speculate that this guy's got something going on. I'm not saying he does or he doesn't, because there's a lot of other factors, but I'm saying personally, and I'm not advising other people, but just me personally, if you're with a person in suspicious circumstances and the police want to bring you in to be a friendly helper and put you in a lie detector machine, no, hell no. Hell no.
I don't know.
Guess what all those other people, Meredith Reed, she was loose, man. I mean, she went, and the two girls Brian was seen talking to, they were at least seen leaving the bar. But Brian's dad, brother, and girlfriend, what do they got to hide? Of course they're going to give a lie detector test. I would, if it were me, I would not, but maybe I'm paranoid.
But that's the thing. What have they got to hide? Of course they're going to give a lie detector test.
But they weren't with him. So there's,
Would it be different if it was a family member?
What do you mean?
If you were out with Shannon.
And they wanted to give me
she went missing and they wanted to bring you in for a lie detector test.
Genuinely knew I didn't have anything to do with it, I would say no. Because I have, as his lawyer said, he's told him everything. I would not want him to try to pin it on me.
Interesting. I go back and forth on this because for other reasons we'll get into, I think Clint might know some stuff.
Okay.
And so I think that's could be why he didn't take the polygraph. I can also see the point of don't walk into that lion's den.
And it could be both is true, that he saw, we'll get into all the speculations. He saw X, Y, and Z happen, and he is culpable or isn't culpable, and thinks even if I told him what I saw, they may still try to say I was involved.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he knows what he knows. But if he knows in his heart of hearts I had nothing to do with it, they could still somehow pin it on him. I mean, you do want to protect yourself. You want to protect yourself.
I've done too much work with the Innocence Project. I'm like, don't be willing and helpful. Go with a lawyer every time.
The only thing, I think it would depend. If I was out with my brothers and one of them went missing, I would do anything I could to try and solve that case. And I would think it would look suspicious if I wouldn't. I do, and I still think it looks suspicious that he's the only one that didn't do it. I would think it would look suspicious if you and I were out and I ended up dead and you did, and my ghost was like, why isn't Heather going to the cops? I know she didn't have anything to do with this.
If you were a vision at the end of my bed, I'm like, ah! You're like, tell the police what happened.
Yeah, but I mean, I do get that you don't want to open up any kind of room for you to be culpable in something that you're that you're saying you weren't culpable in.
It's a case where, and I'm not, Sergeant Hurst, from all accounts, I mean, he's retired now, but he did a great, I mean, as much as he could with nothing. He did so much with so little in this case. But, and I'm not saying he would do anything untoward, but you just don't know. And if it's a desperate police department, and this is a young white fella, and he's wealthy, but imagine if it's anybody else. And it's a desperate, set of folks that are trying to solve this. They may be, it wouldn't be shocking for them to resort to unscrupulous methods and misleading lie detector results.
I think one thing he would have going for him is that he was a young, wealthy white male.
Yes, exactly.
While Sergeant Hurst told Investigation Discovery that police discovered Brian and Clint had a verbal altercation in the bar, no other reports indicated there was trouble between the friends that night. If this is true, however, it casts even more suspicion on Clint's refusal to take a polygraph. His attorney gave the reason that Clint had already provided all the information he had to the police. Brian's brother Derek had other opinions. As reported on TrueCrimeSociety.com, Derek said,
I didn't know Clint very well, but I always thought something was off with him. The way he talked about my brother after he went missing, kind of in a negative way. I wouldn't expect that from someone whose friend vanished.
So here's where we get into why I think there's a reason he didn't take this polygraph test.
Mm-hmm.
If they did get into an altercation at the bar, which literally Sergeant Hurst is the only thing that either of us read that said that happened.
Yeah, you messaged me and were like, this is nowhere. I'm like, I didn't dream this. I saw
no, and I knew you didn't.
Gentleman.
I was trying to find like another source because I always like to get multiple sources, but other patrons at the bar told Sergeant Hurst they saw them get into an altercation. Who knows what that could have been about?
Yeah.
If it did happen, even if it was small, that might be a reason you don't want them to take a polygraph. If they say, Did you and Brian get into a fight that night about something? You're going to have to say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's like, was it because he didn't want to listen to the Imagine Dragons song for the 50th time that you could put it on the jukebox? And you're like, yeah. And then they're like, the next headline is, friend kills friend over Imagine Dragons song.
Yes.
You know? So
I went to Imagine Dragons concert. They're a sweet band.
I don't even know if they were around back then, honestly.
No,
it was
they
the
were
first
not. Probably not.
Bro band that I could think of. Really, I should have said
a dope show.
I should have said Pearl Jam because that was Brian's favorite band. But
yeah, that's right. But yeah, if Clint had said Pearl Jam sucks ass, and Brian's like, fuck you. And friends do that and yell at each other and go, oh my God, like, I hate you. Why would you say that? So it may have been a friendly, silly one. And if you're the bartender and it's loud and there's a bunch of people and you see, or a patron, and you see two dudes like hollering at each other, you don't know if it's like someone going, Hillary Swank's not hot. Yeah, she is. What are you talking about? And they're going, if it's a silly fight, or if they're truly, whatever, you owe me money or whatever, then you can't really tell. So yeah, but Sergeant Hurst said, we found out that they got into this fight. And so you're right. I think if you're Clint and the cops are like, can we hook you up to a machine and ask you what happened? Hell no.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also because of what Derek says.
Yeah. Yes.
That he always thought that the way that Clint handled everything after he went missing was real weird and off.
And it's one thing, too, to go to, the family and say, I'm really sorry with what happened. We all miss him. But the fact that Derek said he talked about him in a negative way,
that's
not a good choice.
Yeah. And then again, if on that polygraph, they're like, had you and Brian had been having any problems? Was there any reason you would have been upset with him?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to come out one way or another.
Yeah.
Sounds like if he was talking about him in a negative way, that he harbored some kind of ill will towards him for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true, for sure.
With few clues to go on, as many as 50 police began knocking on doors of those in the area, checking dumpsters and even sewer systems for some sort of clue as to Brian's whereabouts. Time and time again, they came up empty-handed. To add to the frustration, because of limitations in cell phone technology at the time, and because Brian's flip phone was not enabled with GPS, police could not use the device to track him. The phone's last ping was a text from Clint at 2:10 a.m. asking Brian where he had gone, according to Sergeant Hurst.
And depending on what camp you're in, you know, you could say, oh man, Brian just wandered off or got injured or whatever, and Clint was looking for him, or somebody's trying to cover their tracks. It just depends on again, it's such few straws to grasp at. Mm-hmm. It's like, what picture do you make him into?
Yeah. But if he had taken a polygraph and something questionable had come up, then that text might become a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did
you send that text because you truly wanted to know where he was, or because you wanted to look like you thought he was still alive? I mean,
exactly.
You know.
Desperate to locate him, Randy, Alexis, and Derek put up flyers around the OSU campus and spent their free time searching back alleys, dumpsters, and bodies of water. Randy had consulted a psychic who said Brian's body was being held underwater by a strong current. With the Olentangy River not far from Brian's apartment, Randy and Derek rented boats and searched the murky waters. Police dogs even assisted in the search, but no one found any sign of Brian. Randy also set up the website findbrianshaffer.com. Soon, tips began to come in. While many were outlandish and quickly proven to be false, others claimed they had recently spotted Brian in places like Michigan, Texas, Atlanta, and even Sweden. While each tip was investigated, they continued to lead to dead end after dead end.
This is just a family that's just looking for something. And can you imagine on their free time they're looking on like riverbanks and in the alleyways and dumpsters? And
heartbreaking.
It's just heartbreaking. Also, there's a lot of internet trolls out there. If you go and put a fake tip in a missing persons website, you are going straight to hell forever.
There's a special place in hell for people that do that.
Who?
Fucking assholes.
Do that.
Yeah, someone that has never suffered significant loss, I would imagine.
Did I tell you when I first moved back to Dallas, I lost my dog. Somebody let her out.
Which one, Buffy?
No, previous dog.
Oh.
And she has never been recovered.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I was devastated and I sobbed forever and I put up flyers everywhere and I like checked everywhere and I put up posts on like Pet Finder and Craigslist and stuff. And somebody, I'm like going to cry talking about this. She was a small part Chihuahua, part terrier. So she was like a scruffy black dog. She actually looked exactly like Toto from The Wizard of Oz. Real scruffy little black dog. She was so sweet. Her name was Princess. And somebody messaged me and said, I saw your dog. She's behind the building at blah, blah, blah address. And I lived in Carrollton and this was in Addison. So those are like Dallas suburbs that are pretty close. Addison's a lot of restaurants and Carrollton's like more housing. So I get this text or this email on my Craigslist ad and it said, she's behind this building. I like was so excited. My heart was racing. I like sped over. It was a Chinese restaurant. So not only was this person a racist,
Are you sure that they didn't really think they saw him?
I messaged them back and they were like, LOL.
They said LOL?
Yes. I was like, I'm back here behind it and it says, oh, they must have eaten him already. LOL.
Oh, wow.
So it was not an actual sighting. It was also, she was very little and it was like long. I mean, it was a 15-minute drive probably. And there was like 3-lane streets on either, or 6-lane streets and stuff. And they wrote me back and said,
impossible for her to get back there anyway.
Yeah.
Probably.
And they said, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm here. You know, what building? And it was like, they must have already eaten her. LOL.
Well, if that person is listening, go fuck yourself.
You freaking slip and fall behind that dumpster where you're talking shit.
They say that you shouldn't put reward. Well, if you put reward money up on missing dogs or anything, and then someone contacts you and says, "I have your dog. I'll meet you at blah blah blah. I'll meet you behind the Chinese restaurant." Yeah, when I lived in Florida, it happened all the time.
No way. I would say meet me at the police station because they have those Craigslist swap spots.
But people are so excited to get their dog back, and then you show up with $2,000 in cash. And this happened in the neighborhood I lived in when I lived in Florida. There was this Boston Terrier that had been missing forever. I had a Boston Terrier, so I was like very upset and wanted it to be found. And they had a reward, and it was the old woman who had lost it. Mm-hmm. And the people said they had it, and the old woman showed up, and they beat the shit out of her and took her money.
Oh my God. Well, at least thankfully, I don't think I might have said like reward available, but I didn't say like, I will bring $500. But I mean, I guess that's good that I sped back there and by myself and I was just so excited to find her and then I never did.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. And with dogs, people, anything, you're like, what could have happened?
Yeah. I mean, in this case, with the dog, she was very old and she had health problems and, you never know. So it's not, and also I'm not comparing even a little bit. It's not even one iota.
But you still hope that someone picked her up and maybe gave her a good life.
That's what I think. That's what I like to think. But, all that to say, it's not similar to losing your son or brother, but there's shitty people out there who are willing to respond, take advantage of people in sad situations.
Yes. And we'll see that happens
again
several times in this. Yeah. Some of the tips that came out on this findbrianshaffer.com were, if I was a family member reading it, would be just gutted with the just lack of empathy and compassion people can have when being like, oh, I know what happened to your son. Here's what happened. I'm not even going to say it because some of it's so like...
Oh, they posted on there?
Yeah. And so, or they'd call. Yeah. And it's just so insulting and racist, homophobic, and you're just like, his dad is reading this. His
brother. Yeah.
His dad and brother who just lost their mom and wife a month earlier. And now they're contending with this. Mm-hmm. That's grief that few can imagine.
Yeah. And
luckily.
Then on top of it.
Well, even celebrities reached out to the public for information related to Brian's disappearance. At a Pearl Jam concert, Brian's favorite band, lead singer Eddie Vedder took a break between songs so he could ask the audience to contact police with any information they may have. The band then dedicated their next song, Come Back, to Brian.
Yeah, he was a huge fan. I had a tattoo of Pearl Jam.
Yeah, I watched the YouTube video of this concert where they do it beforehand, and Eddie Vedder seems legitimately concerned and spends like 5 minutes talking about like, this is what he looks like. This is what happened. This is his girlfriend. We're just looking for anything. And the crowd is very engaged and everything. I mean, if you know and Brian was supposed to be at that concert too. If you know that this dude, you were their favorite band, you're playing in his town where he would have been at the concert. Good for you, Eddie Vedder.
I wonder if, how Billy Jensen uses Facebook to put videos like this up and then target it to specific areas. If the technology was available, like say this all happened not in 2006, but in 2016, if this footage would have gone out, maybe in that, close block radius to every single possible person, if there may have been some more leads at the time, just because there was just they put up flyers, but you're hoping somebody walks by and maybe the one witness was out sick that day. You just don't know. So
a flyer can't go viral.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I mean, the video I was watching was clearly from someone's phone.
Yeah.
That they had taken. So yeah, that kind of stuff. I think it can. I mean, that's why Billy's been so successful, as has, even things like don't fuck with cats and stuff like that. Like you get these website internet sleuths on the case, and the internet is a vast place that can be both good and bad. But in the cases of these, you didn't have those types of resources back then to extrapolate out all that information to the masses very quickly.
It's true. People nowadays got a lot of internet and a lot of time on their hands.
Yes.
Sinisterhood will be right back. The holidays are here, and what better way to celebrate the ones you love than with a fun and exciting subscription to FabFitFun, the only subscription box that delivers full-size self-care and wellness products straight to your door. And right now, you can receive $10 off your first box by using code CREEPY at fabfitfun.com.
The FabFitFun team of experts carefully pick the top trending products for you to choose from, so you can personalize your own box of happiness. They let you choose up to 5 products. Or if you prefer to be totally surprised, the FabFitFun experts will curate a selection of products just for you. It's the perfect way to receive seasonal must-haves without even having to leave your home.
One of the things I love most about FabFitFun is that they're passionate about showcasing brands run by amazing women. In fact, the winter box features 16 female-founded brands. My personal favorites from this month is, of course, we know my Summer and Rose Cozy Robe. It's my new morning ritual. Every morning I wake up, I put on my robe, let the dogs out, and then I have my coffee by the fireplace in my very cozy robe. And I feel like I'm in a fancy wintry ski resort, which outside it feels like a wintry ski resort. But I also got the Voir Rhythm of the Rain hair mask and scalp detox. I have not been to a salon since March, and you can tell my hair is extremely long and was extremely dry. But I use this mask, and it's easy to use, and it restored all my shine and softness, and I didn't even have to leave my house, and I could leave my robe on.
Nice. Perfect. I am loving the Tula Glow and Get It Cooling and Brightening Eye Balm. I just swipe it under my eyes or my cheekbones, and it instantly gives me a bright and rosy glow. It's about all I can muster with makeup these days.
But it looks great.
That, though, and the black liquid eyeliner that I got by Aesthetica. It's the perfect shade of boldness. It goes on super easy, lasts for hours, and it pairs perfectly with my Ilia Limitless Lash Mascara that I talked about last time. You know how black liquid eyeliner, it can be really hard to put on.
Yes, it's
and
unwieldy.
You end up looking like a train wreck. This one, like the girth of the brush is perfect. So it's just like a thin line, and it's not too messy. It's very easy to do. And it lets me look super put together for our live Q&As and Zoom calls. This box had so many products that are great for helping you feel put together even when you're quarantining at home.
And the value of the FabFitFun box is unprecedented. You receive over $200 worth of full-size products for just $49.99 a month. So sign up now and you can snag some amazing products like the Tula Brightening Eye Balm or that cozy Summer and Rose Comfy Robe when you customize.
It's the perfect holiday gift because it's the gift that keeps on giving month after month. Or gift it to yourself for some me time in a box. 2020 has been rough for all of us, and we all deserve some pampering. Head to fabfitfun.com right now and use coupon code CREEPY for $10 off your first box.
The holidays are here, and there's no better way to manage the stresses that inevitably come with it than with a CBD routine from Charlotte's Web, the world's most trusted hemp extract. And now you can use the code CREEPY for 15% off their entire selection of amazing products, excluding bulk products and bundles. You can choose from a selection of topical skincare products, gummies, and traditional oils, all made to support you day to day, moment to moment.
I've tried most of their hemp oils at this point. My personal favorite is the mint chocolate, which is kind of a Christmassy flavor, if you think about it.
Put in a little cocoa? Come on.
Oh, yes. It helps me feel calm and manage my everyday stresses, but also make the perfect stocking stuffer.
I think so. Well, I get very itchy in the winter because I suffer from eczema. So I love the CBD Medic Eczema Therapy Medicated Ointment. As soon as I put it on, I feel relief from all the itching, and my skin's usually all flaky. But when I have the ointment on, it's silky smooth and it smells so nice.
Nice.
All of Charlotte's Web products are free of 8 major allergens. They're not tested on animals. They're gluten-free. And their topical products are formulated without synthetic fragrances, artificial colors or dyes, sulfates, or GMOs.
Guess where Kate and Biddy
Weren't they in space last time we talked? They're on the ISS.
They were in space the last time we checked in with them. Since then, so we know that they were going to be leading Santa's sleigh.
Yes.
They had knocked off Dancer and Blitzen.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking Santa's position.
Santa's out.
Santa's out.
Don't sit on Santa's lap this year. You want to send your letters to Kate and Biddy.
Kate and Biddy, yes. And they'll be delivering presents to all the good girls and boys all over the world, I suppose, because they've become so smart from enjoying the CBD chews for senior dogs that they have now reached the highest ranks that one can reach. They've been christened as Santa.
Their brain function has been enhanced to the highest level.
Yeah, it has. I think so.
Oh, well, everybody needs to get that because, who doesn't want their dogs to have unlimited presence and power? So if you are looking for an unlimited dog or a great gift for yourself, friends, family, or even your pets this holiday season, try the world's most trusted hemp extract by going to charlottesweb.com and entering code CREEPY for 15% off.
While there are virtually no clues pointing to what could have happened to Brian on that fateful night, there are no shortage of theories. With Brian's mom having passed a mere 3 weeks before his disappearance, some have speculated that he took his own life. While Brian seemed to be holding it together on the outside, there is the possibility he was grieving more than he was letting on. Did his pain, coupled with the stress of grad school and one too many drinks, lead him to a tragic decision? Friends and family say no. Those that had recently seen him, including his dad, said there were no indications Brian was depressed or suicidal. Sergeant Hurst also believes suicide is unlikely, because people who die by suicide typically want to be found.
Yeah, the Sergeant Hurst seemed, I mean, you get from the family's perspective, it's almost like Ray Rivera, where you kind of say, well, I think I would have seen the signs. But he said there was no, in all their investigation that they did, there was nothing that pointed to that.
No. And even though we just have a few minutes, maybe not even that long, of this CCTV footage, like, he looks like he's having a good time in both of the shots. He doesn't
Walking with
look
purpose
like,
into the bar.
He's not like, and he'd even gone out with friends that night. There was no indication that anybody was depressed or anything like that, or he was acting weird. He'd seen his dad that night too. So
yeah, and if somebody was going to, end up taking their own life, also getting super, I guess there's no right or wrong way, but it just seems like the external elements that were all going around of being with friends in a public place, it would not be a conducive place to that.
Yeah. If Brian didn't choose to end his life, is it possible he decided to run away and start a new one? Although Brian's credit cards and bank accounts were not touched after his disappearance, he had received a $20,000 payout from his mother's life insurance policy after her death. According to Alexis, he asked her to just come away with him in the days before his disappearance. He also mentioned to her that if anything should happen to him, she should move on.
That is a strange thing to say.
Yeah. It's one of those things that at the time you might not think much of, but then looking back, you're like, was he letting me know something? Was he trying to give me a clue or something like that? Or was it just something he said in a moment of like grieving his mother's death or something, that really didn't have that much weight to it, but now people are putting weight on it?
That's a good point.
While Brian was a successful student with a promising career ahead of him, medicine was not his passion. He had a musician's heart and longed to make money off his true love, music. A post on Brian's MySpace page read, "I really love music, and this whole doctor thing is really just a job, only temporary until I get my band together and put out a record. I want to own an island someday, or at least a beach so I can listen to Buffett all day and drink margaritas with my senorita." Another MySpace post said that he would rather be smoking on the beach with Bob Marley. According to Lori Davis, the Shaffer family spokesperson. Were these simple passing thoughts, or did the death of Renee push Brian to leave the high-stress world of medical school behind in hopes of pursuing his passion of music and a peaceful beach life? Yeah, if you want a temporary side job, I don't think doctor is the easiest one to pursue. No, definitely not. That's, it's going to be real hard to get any other career off the ground if you're in med school and then go into the medical field. Yeah, it's taking up a lot of time, but maybe that's, he was like, well, I don't have to live up to my mom's expectations anymore. I can just quit. This one doesn't sit with me because, one, why would he be planning a trip? Mm-hmm. And just none of it adds up. Also, if you're going to leave your life behind, are you going to do it at 2 a.m. when you're shit-faced? Probably not. I also think if you're seeing how devastated your dad and brother are at losing a family member, you're not going to ghost him. I think it would be, I don't think he didn't sound like the type of person that would have it in him to put his family through something like that. Like heartless. And if you want to quit medical school, quit it. People quit in the middle of grad programs all the time, and it's fine. It's fine to do. And his dad wouldn't have said, "We don't love you if you're not a doctor." His dad would want him to be happy, it seems like, and same with his brother. So I don't think it was like the stakes were so high that the only way for him to quit medical school is if he ran away from everything. No, it seems very extreme and unlikely. Hoping this was the case, for months after Brian's disappearance, Alexis held out hope. She called his cell phone daily, but it always went to voicemail. Then, in September of 2006, 6 months after his disappearance, Alexis's heart skipped a beat. Rather than go straight to voicemail, the phone rang. Was this an indication that Brian was alive? Or at the very least, that his cell phone was able to receive calls? I mean, you just imagine the elation this poor woman had. As soon as it starts ringing, that feeling, we've all felt it. Mm-hmm. Adrenaline, excitement, scared, nerves, all just building up in your chest. You don't know what she said. I don't even know what I would have said if he'd answered. Yeah. God, you clam up. Yeah. Unfortunately, Sergeant Hurst followed up on this lead with Singular Wireless. They explained that due to a glitch in the system, dead phones can sometimes ring, even though there is no cell activity. However, Lori Davis told Investigation Discovery the family still held on hope after that ring. Alexis wrote on her MySpace page,
I kept calling it to hear it purely because it was one of the best sounds I've ever heard, even if no one picked up.
At one point, the phone also pinged off a tower in nearby Hilliard, but it was considered by police to be a glitch as well.
Yeah, Sergeant Hurst said that the way Singular explained it, that if the outgoing call, when the call is calling the phone, if it couldn't quickly get to the phone, it bounces around towers, and the bouncing around towers causes the ringing.
Gosh. But I can understand how you would still think, okay, sure, I know that's the logical explanation, but my heart is holding on hope that maybe it wasn't a glitch, and his phone's the anomaly, and he is out there.
Yeah, that's what Lori Davis said too, that the family said, okay, well, now it's like it reinvigorates you of like, It's been 6 months, there's nothing, and you get this call and you're like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah.
In mid-September 2008, hope that Brian was still alive was once again stirred when a cryptic message was posted on his dad's online obituary. Tragically, days before, on September 14th, 2008, Randy had been killed by a tree branch that fell on him as he was cleaning up after a rainstorm. The mysterious message read,
Dad, I love you. Love, Brian. Location, Virgin Islands.
While some were hopeful that this meant Brian was alive and mourning his father's death from the island, the police traced the post and found that it came from a publicly available computer in Franklin, Ohio. It was determined to be a hoax.
Again, who is doing this? Writing on an obituary of a dead man about his son. The rest of the family can read that.
A soulless and heartless person that probably a 15-year-old kid, just doesn't really understand the repercussions that can come from something like that.
God.
Randy's relentless efforts to find his son before his own death were not in vain. During his search, he met and forged relationships with other parents who had missing children. Eventually, the group helped put before the Ohio legislature a missing adults bill that established statewide protocol for handling cases like Brian's. The bill was eventually passed after Randy's death.
Talk about a club you don't want to be a part of.
Oh, man.
I mean, but thankfully you find each other, but still.
Yeah. But the families that he talked to said before they came up with this bill and it was passed and everything, that their cases were just bundled. There really wasn't any protocol on how it was handled. A lot of the onus was put on the families to do searching of their own and everything.
Come on.
So now there's like protocol for how this happens.
That's great.
While Sergeant Hurst maintains that there is no evidence indicating that Brian was subject to foul play, others speculate this is one of the more likely theories. The Ugly Tuna was located in an area notorious for crime. Is it possible that Brian, for whatever reason, left through the employees-only exit that led to the construction site and encountered some unsavory characters? With multiple dumpsters and construction shafts and holes in the area around, his body could have been discarded and picked up or covered up before anyone started searching for him. This is something likely, in my opinion.
Yes, my theory is closely related to the construction site. We'll get to it with what do we think?
Staff of the Ugly Tuna also reported they had seen Brian talking to the band that had played that evening. Did he leave, undetected, with the band for a possible after-party? If so, what tragedy befell him along the way?
Yeah, because you could say even if he, in the videos and they watch the band leave and they don't recognize him or he put on someone else's jacket or something and they say, oh, that's just some guy leaving with the band, then something still happened to him between Ugly Tuna and question mark, wherever he ended up.
Absolutely. For a brief time, police and loved ones speculated that Brian may have been the victim of the Smiley Face Killer, an individual or possibly organized group of killers that some believe are responsible for the abduction and murders of more than 40 drunken white college-age males. All alleged victims have also been described as athletic, good-looking, and academically successful, according to Thought Catalog. All of these characteristics can be attributed to Brian.
That's an interesting theory where it intersects with this. This is one that we get suggested frequently.
All the time. And in my research of this, I not only feel like this isn't how he died, I'm not entirely sure this serial killer even exists.
Yeah.
It's been pretty debunked by most. Named for the smiley face graffiti found near more than a dozen of the victims' bodies, the smiley face killer theory was first introduced in 2008 by retired New York detectives Frank Gannon and Anthony Duarte. When the detectives reviewed the evidence from unsolved cases dating back as far as 1997, they felt there were too many coincidences for the deaths not to be related.
And if it's true, it's one of those when you hear it on the surface, you think, oh, that's a very scary serial killer. And it's from so, they're all over the country or all over the place. But like you said, when you get to the brass tacks of it, there's not evidence that A, it's the same person, or B, these weren't just
accidental drownings because they were drunk. Yeah. In addition to all of the victims having a similar profile, they were also all seen out on the night of their disappearances, getting drunk at local bars or parties. Days, weeks, or even months later, the bodies would turn up in frigid bodies of water in the Midwest. While almost all of the deaths have been deemed accidental drownings, 2 of them were found to be homicides. Randy, Brian's father, had been told by a psychic that his son's body would be found in a body of water. Is it possible Brian was murdered by one or more individuals from the smiley face killers?
Well, I think you would, if the other individuals had turned up days, weeks, or months later and it's been as long as it's been, probably not.
Mm-hmm. While there are certainly many similarities between Brian's case and the alleged victims of the smiley face killer, authorities do not believe this is a likely scenario. For starters, almost all of the victims were found in freezing waters during the winter months. Brian went missing during the spring. Then there is the fact that while some police wholeheartedly believe the smiley face killer, or killers, is real, others find the theory that a cabal of jealous and ugly men are targeting college-aged males as revenge for their jealousy ludicrous, and believe the 2 detectives that floated the idea made it all up. The FBI has also found no evidence to support this theory.
Yeah, it's kind of a theory with no... you're kind of shoving all the pieces to fit a puzzle that's not a real puzzle.
And reading a lot of the comments and stories from parents of the victims that were found and how the 2 detectives kind of treated them and everything was upsetting. And they flat out said, like, oh, they just try and get their claws in you, and then once they're done with you, they just dump you. They have no interest in helping you.
Oh.
And they kind of just made the whole thing up to, I don't know what their motive was, to make a name for themselves, or...
I think that the prevalence of the high rate of people who are inebriated getting into accidents and drowning, it's very high. And then on top of that, the smiley face is not like that you found a really specific letter or word somewhere. It's like pretty ubiquitous. It's like there was an X over where their bodies were,
No, and only like a dozen of these 40 guys that went missing and drowned, was there a smiley face near the location where these detectives thought the body had been dumped in the water.
Oh, because it wasn't where the body was found.
No, it wasn't where the body was found. It's where they think the body, because you wouldn't know where the body was going to wash up.
True.
Or be fished out. It was where they thought it had been dumped, but none of them were the same.
Yeah.
So, and smiley faces, by all accounts, are like a very popular thing for people to tag. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I think that they were trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Investigator Andre Edwards said that in regards to Brian leaving the bar, that he could say,
with 100% certainty,
Brian did not leave via the escalator, according to TrueCrimeSociety.com. While the CCTV footage has been reviewed thousands of times at this point, is it possible that Brian did leave the way he came in and was simply missed? One of the cameras constantly panned its designated area. Another camera was operated manually. Could Brian have slipped out undetected mid-frame? Did he change clothes at some point or put on a hat, then slip out with the intentions of leaving and starting a new life? Again, it's possible, but highly unlikely.
I think Sergeant Hirsch said basically there wasn't a time where the angle wasn't such that they could have seen him leave. There was enough footage that showed every second after he would have, after the last time he was seen, pretty much.
I don't think he left the way he came in.
No. Agreed.
A scenario that makes more sense is that Brian left the bar through the only other exit, one that didn't have security cameras. It was a service store, used only by employees, and it opened onto a construction site, something that would have been difficult for a drunk person to navigate in the dark. Did Brian stumble out this back entrance, only to fall into a shaft, his body later buried by fill dirt or concrete before it could be discovered? There are also those that believe something more sinister happened, and that the developers responsible for the construction site covered something up to avoid a lawsuit. Again, police believe this is an unlikely scenario, as the K-9 unit never detected Brian's scent. Yeah, a lot of people think, well, he fell in something and then the construction crew showed up and they didn't want to take responsibility for it or miss any time off work, so they just covered his body with concrete. I think that's unlikely. Maybe I'm giving people too much credit. I would think if a construction crew showed up and there's a dead body in the middle of their site, they're not just going to be so callous as to cover it up and acted like nothing happened. I
would think just, when you're an employee at a place, you're not going to put your freedom at risk for your stupid employers. Mm-hmm. You're not going to, if you see a dead body and the employer's like, shut up, see, we're all going to get sued. You'd be like, I'm just going to tell the cops. Yeah. It's also, the construction site didn't do it. If it's a drunk person that's fallen, I don't believe they would have been liable if it was like he crawled through a fence or something. If they took reasonable measures to keep people out and he still went in there, that's not going to be something that they're going to be liable for. So, and even so, they have insurance. So, yeah. I mean, it's one of those where the greedy developers were covering up for. It's like, it's not like that. In this case, if he did fall there and someone found him, I believe they would have called it.
They would have called the cops. Yeah, and I think even if he fell and his body wasn't seen, and then it just got covered up, those dogs can smell. I mean, we've all seen that Curb Your Enthusiasm finale, one of my favorite episodes of all time. They can smell feet and feet down. So I think that they would have detected some sort of scent. Also, there's CCTV cameras out on the back too, and nothing caught anything, which is again weird because I do think that he left out this entrance, but he was not picked up on any of the other bars' footage.
That's the weird thing is like, which way did he walk? And it's like neither way because he's not on either of the cameras.
While Brian and Clint had been friends for many years, Brian's family found it odd that Clint refused to take a polygraph. While Clint's lawyer insisted his client wasn't at all involved in Brian's disappearance, Derek, Brian's brother, has always been bothered by Clint's lack of cooperation. While there is no proof to validate these rumors, there are those that knew both men and believe their relationship may have been more than platonic. Online rumors speculate Brian was gay and was merely keeping up the appearance of a relationship with Alexis to appease his mother. With Renee's passing, some feel Brian was ready to stop living a lie. Could the argument Sergeant Hurst reported occurred inside the bar have been related? Did Brian tell Clint he was leaving that night to start a new life? In an interview with The Lantern, Derek said,
"If Brian did take off somewhere, if that is the case, we just always had a strong feeling that Clint would possibly know that." I mean, I think if your brother left you and you can't put all that on this guy's shoulders. That my brother left to go live in the Virgin Islands and you're not telling me, did he know or did he not? They checked they checked that he didn't fly out. But if he truly, like we said earlier, it doesn't seem like he would leave his grieving father and brother behind like that.
No, I don't think he left to start a new life. I do think that Clint might know something, even if it might be something that is nothing. I think he thinks he knows something that could be something,
maybe, yeah,
and that therefore didn't want to implicate himself.
Yeah, but if Clint knows that he left town or whatever, it's like I don't think he left town. So, but what Clint knows, we don't know because he won't do the polygraph.
And if there was something going on between them that was more than friendship, and they were trying to hide it, that could have been what they were arguing about at the bar too, and maybe that's another reason he didn't want to take a polygraph, is he didn't want that to come out.
True, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I haven't seen any solid evidence where
there's none. It's all online rumors, but all of these theories are.
Yeah,
every theory is speculation. There's no, like we said up top, there's no rock solid proof of anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's all speculation and what others think happened. Others believe Clint's plausible role in Brian's disappearance may have been more sinister. There are rumors Clint was involved with drugs. Did he offer his old roommate some that night, which led to an altercation, or, rather, an unfortunate accident that Clint then covered up to protect himself?
Yeah, again, it's more speculation that I didn't see, like, well, we were really worried about him because he was taking a bunch of prescriptions or he was doing cocaine or whatever. I didn't see any.
I saw a lot of stuff that said Clint liked to dabble in coke.
But I meant Brian, sorry.
Oh, yeah. And that might even be why they met up with Meredith Reed that night. Was so he could get some from her. But no, most people said they'd never seen Brian do drugs. That doesn't mean he wasn't that night.
True.
There's also those that say he was looking for drugs, and and they got it from Meredith, and that's why he was talking to those two girls at the escalator and also the band.
Interesting.
Trying to find something. But if that isn't something you do a lot, or even if it is, and you're mixing it with alcohol and something goes south and you find your friend passed out or dead in a bathroom or wherever, and you don't want to be liable, then what might you do?
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's also the theory that Brian never actually left the Ugly Tuna that night, and instead lays buried in a hidden area that has gone undetected by law enforcement. While this would explain why he was never seen leaving the bar on CCTV, police and canine units scoured the bar multiple times and never found any evidence that Brian was killed in the bar or that his body is in there.
Yeah, I think that this is one that makes, quote, total sense until you realize that the canine's been in there and then it's since been remodeled and turned into something else.
Yeah, some said he was like, the body was chopped up and put in a keg and then wheeled out so it was undetected.
Why? By whom?
But that's my question with that is like, why? And again, it would, who knows? All speculation would be he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. It was drug related. But who is gonna? How would there be no DNA?
Yeah. And especially even so, if they chop him up in the bar, anywhere, in the kitchen, in the office, whatever, the canines would smell part of him. Shirt,
or
pants,
even
shoes.
if they wasn't chopped up and he was just stuffed in a barrel or a keg or something. Yeah, his scent's going to be like in a back room, in a kitchen or whatever. And like the canines didn't detect anything.
Yeah.
In an interview in 2016, Alexis said it was close to a year after Brian's disappearance that she finally stopped calling his phone. She struggled with a roller coaster of emotions before finding the strength to move on. Alexis got married in 2009 and lives with her husband and their 2 sons in Toledo, where she practices medicine as an OBGYN. She told the Columbus Dispatch that she now lives
a very busy, full, happy life.
Regarding what she thinks happened to her one-time boyfriend, Alexis told The Lantern that she believes Clint is withholding information about what happened that night. However, she doesn't believe Brian took off to start a new life, saying,
I don't think he's alive. I can't imagine he would have just done that.
Brian's brother Derek also got married to his longtime girlfriend Maureen. The couple had a baby boy a few years later. In such a short period of time, Derek suffered an unfathomable amount of loss and heartache, losing his mother, father, and brother in the span of 2 years. While he still holds out hope that his brother is alive, he admits it gets harder and harder to believe that the longer Brian remains missing. Still, he, his wife, as well as Brian's numerous friends and extended family, continue to search for him to this day. That is just... He's the only one left in his immediate family. In 2 years' time, you lose your whole family.
Just like that. I can't believe, like you said, unfathomable is the right word. It's just, thinking about that you go from a family of 4 to 3, almost immediately to 2, and then down to just you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
While Brian's family, friends, and those that have worked on the case remain just as lost as they were in April 2006, Sergeant Hurst told the Columbus Dispatch,
somebody out there knows something.
If you have any information regarding Brian's disappearance, please call Central Ohio Crime Stoppers toll-free 1-877-645-TIPS. You can remain anonymous.
Hopefully somebody at the bar or a construction worker or somebody knows something.
What do we think?
Okay, I think because we did CrimeCon house arrest and I sat through the lecture of famed forensic pathologist Dr. Henry Lee talking about the staircase incident, and he put up a bunch of statistics. I was trying to find it and then I got sidetracked, but about the likelihood that a person who's found with, or a person who is known to have been drinking or imbibing or taking drugs before their death, and then that obviously the likelihood is that had some effect on him, like either not just an overdose, but in the staircase lady's incident, he thinks, she fell down the stairs. And so, among other things. So I think if you look at the logical thing, he probably opened the door to the construction site, fell in, and I believe was buried further down than what canines could smell, or fell beneath something that they couldn't smell through, or etc.
Okay.
I don't think that the canines are I don't think that the canines are infallible.
I wish we could see pictures of what the construction site looked like back then, because if it was a 20-foot hole that was being dug to build, something, that's different than if it was just a bunch of normal construction shit around. You know what I mean? There's different levels of constructioning. Yeah.
Yeah. In Chicago, they were digging out that spire for years, and it was like 50 feet. I mean, it was like huge down in the ground. It looked like the earth had opened up. So something like that, you fall on that, you're not coming back. And then also, dogs aren't going to smell you, if you're covered up that deep.
My question with that theory is, I feel like he would have been seen
by workers.
Yeah,
that's what I wondered too. Unless it's he falls down there at 2-3 a.m. They start working at 4-5 a.m. before dawn, and their job's like, today we're gonna fill this hole with dirt, and then they just start filling the hole with dirt without even looking down in there. Because why would you?
Yeah, I feel like I don't think that's a bad theory, and I think it's one of the more likely ones that could have happened. What I want to know and have the pieces filled in is more about that actual construction site, when they started working again, what work they were doing in the day or two following that happening.
Because he went out on a Friday night, right?
Yes.
And then, so would have, in theory, died Saturday night into Saturday morning.
And they probably weren't working over the weekend.
That's what I was just going to say. Or were they? You'd have to ask. Yeah. Unless it was like, oh, it's a rush job or whatever.
Yes. So I want to know when they went back to work, what work they were doing. Was it daylight when they started? Because all those things would help flush out that theory.
The other part of that theory is, do you walk outside, you and a friend walk outside, either there's an accidental issue or a altercation between two people, or between two people and third-party criminal actors, and Brian is somehow killed and he's pushed into it and then covered up to where nobody would find him even if they looked. And then you go, I don't want to take a polygraph.
That could be. Or, either Clint's involved, or what I think. So I think that Clint definitely knows something that it could be anything from, we were doing a bunch of coke that night. We had this relationship we didn't want people to know about. I walked outside with him and we got into a fight, and I accidentally shoved him into a construction hole, and he died. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think he does know something, and that's the reason he doesn't want to take the polygraph. I think it's also possible that Brian left on his own through those doors and was robbed. Yeah. Because it was a really high crime area. I think maybe he walked out there. He's completely shit-faced. He starts walking home on his way to his apartment. He's robbed in a back alley. Something goes wrong. he gets killed and they either put him in a dumpster or shove him in a construction site.
Yeah, that's true. And that
a lot
explains
of people
it.
a lot of people have said that if it happened on a Friday and he did get dumped in a dumpster, that they're definitely going to pick up the trash before anybody reports him missing and they start really looking on Monday.
True.
Because it's bars and it's the weekend.
Yeah, I think
the
it was like
are full.
Sunday evening that his dad ended up calling in.
Yeah. So before they even call that in, he may have already been picked up and taken to a landfill.
Yeah, that's horrifying. You'd hope somebody would see that when they were dumping the dumpsters, but maybe not.
And again, that's the same thing with the like, no theory am I completely rock solid on, because I think there's holes in all of them. Like, like, why wouldn't someone have seen him get dumped from the dumpster to the truck or the truck to the landfill? But it could happen. You know, I mean, in a lot of these, like, even though it might be unlikely, it could happen.
That's true.
Maybe he asked someone for a ride when he walked out of the back entrance, and
he's buried on some land in the middle of Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah. It is weird that a body's never been found.
I think that's Sergeant Hurst is right, though, that somebody knows something. So if he was robbed, you know, walking home, the person that robbed him probably like told a story or, you know, like to somebody and been like, oh, Jack, that guy, you know, whatever. I like,
right.
That's the dude. Or maybe not. Or maybe you didn't know the person that did it said, I robbed a person and I killed him last night and I didn't even know what their face looked like because I did it in the dark.
Why do you think he would have walked out that entrance? That exit, rather. That's
a great question. Unless there was a verbal altercation and he's like, I'm not leaving with you. F you, man. And turns around and like storms out. That would be one reason to leave out that way.
Because a lot of people have said it wasn't an exit that was easy to get to. It was like in a staff area and everything. They even had like, you know, stuff up because of the construction and everything. I saw on Reddit one person post that she worked at the bar during this time and that an exit like that wasn't even a thing that they ever used. They came in and out the main entrance at the escalator like everyone else. She also said, though, that there was a temporary shaft elevator because of the construction that they would take trash down. So if that's the case, I mean, a shaft elevator is a whole other story.
Yeah, because you wouldn't see somebody down there. And then if it's temporary, you pull the machinery out and fill up the hole.
But that's the only place I've ever seen that. I mean, nothing. I think the cops would have known something like that was on site. So I don't know. This is one that will continue to just haunt my dreams.
Yeah, be a mystery. I think somehow... I mean, I think that's the door he went out because it's impossible that he went out any other door because there's cameras on all of them. And so you eliminate that. So he definitely went out that door. It's just a question of beyond that, everything is conjecture. Why he went out the door and then what happened on the other side of it. But if somebody does know something, hopefully they'll call it in.
Please do. Yeah, I think he went out that door and was either robbed and killed and his body was disposed of in that area, or perhaps Clint was with him and something happened and
that may be
he got shoved in something purposely or non-purposely, and like you said, just kind of got covered up and left for the construction workers to do their thing.
True, or if you open the door and your friend's getting robbed or chased or something and you don't do anything about it, do you feel so guilty you don't want to tell the police? I think something like that, though, where it would be easily blamable on a third party, where you can go, a guy with red hair, 6 foot tall, in a yellow shirt, chased my friend. I mean, where you would have something helpful that wouldn't be, well, we were out there and we were, shoving each other and then he happened to fall, where it wouldn't implicate you. Why wouldn't you? If there was a robbery that Clint witnessed or was also a victim of.
I don't know. You're the one that won't take a lie detector test, so you tell me. But I think if you're drunk and possibly have been doing coke all night, I think that's a very good reason why you wouldn't say anything.
That's true.
Because a lot of credibility goes out the window at that point for you.
And his lawyer's like, he's told you all he's going to tell you because again, I can't drink that much anymore because of my heartburn. But back in my drinking days, I mean, there are times that I'm like, how did I get home?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so something that happened between A and B, like what, I shrugged my shoulders. No one can see that on the air. But, you know, if he was out there, he did witness something did happen, and he literally just does not remember because he was blackout drunk. That may be it. I've never also done cocaine while being drunk. I don't know if that makes you, you know, have better memory or worse memory. But either way, you know, if his lawyers kept saying he's told the police everything that he knows, which may be, I was looking for him. I remember after the bar closed. I remember before that, but there was like a 30-minute chunk or a 20-minute chunk that I don't remember.
Yeah.
And does that make him go, well, they're going to think I'm guilty if I tell them I don't remember?
And to your point of, in our drinking days, there were times where we didn't know what we were doing or how we got home. There are times when you'd be so drunk that you're like, oh, it makes perfect sense for me to go out the staff door into this construction site and then try and walk back around to the front to meet my friends because I got turned around in the halls of this bar going to the bathroom or something. You know, you never know, like, it could be something so simple that got him out those doors.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't lured out there.
Yeah. So, yep, it's a bunch of speculation and conjecture, but that's what all these theories are. So,
cases like this and Bryceless Pizza, it's like you can't. That one at least had a little bit more pieces to it, but there's just nothing to put together. Unfortunately for his brother,
I do not think he is still alive. I don't think he is living, unfortunately, a beach life somewhere.
I know,
smoking and listening to Buffett. Yeah, I do think that he is dead. I'm just still toying with how that happened.
How it happened and how to recover his body just so his brother has some closure.
Yeah. I mean, if he is, I guess, down in the construction, it would take digging up the earth.
Yeah.
Like however many feet down that they were when they were doing the construction and having dogs go down there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And I think there was someone on Reddit that was saying, oh, it was such an expensive project that they are not going to do that. And it would have been such an expensive thing to do. Millions of dollars to dig up take down what's been built. Dig up the concrete, dig up the fill dirt, go down in there. I wonder now if there's some type of technology that you could shoot something down into it and see, shoot sonic waves or whatever it is down there and see if there's something down there.
There is. I don't know how far down it goes, but on the first season of Unsolved Mysteries, they used something like that to try and find a body that's been buried, they think, significantly underground. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's money.
Yeah.
Does Derek have the money to fund something like that, unfortunately?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. If you were in this area at this time and you know anything about this construction.
Yeah.
I would love an email to learn more about, like, what that all entailed and what it looked like. Because I don't know why there's not more information on that. But if there's something there, I think that could be a big clue.
Yeah, for sure. Of how it was set up. You could either rule it out or at least know what would be a likely place to search.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think. There's a million different theories for this, and no one, unfortunately, unless somebody's conscience just gets the better of them, will really be able to know.
It's going to take somebody coming forward.
Mm-hmm. We love providing Sinisterhood to you at no cost. So if you like what you hear, consider supporting the show by donating to our Patreon. We're a small operation, creating the show for you by researching, writing, recording, and producing it ourselves. Any amount is sincerely appreciated and helps offset the cost of making and hosting the show.
As a thank you, you'll also get some sweet perks like ad-free episodes, a Sinisterhood sticker, membership to our exclusive Patreon Facebook group for those in the Ruling the Airwaves tier, a special shout-out on the show, a monthly bonus mini-sode, and patron-exclusive video and audio content, including our fun new weekly wheels where we spin an actual game show wheel and talk about topics that you guys choose. You can suggest them to us on Patreon.
You also now have the fun perk of access to our Discord server, where you can connect with other fans in real time and discuss the latest in true crime, share personal ghost stories, or just post adorable pictures of your pets. We'll also be hopping on occasionally and hosting monthly Q&As, where you can ask us all your burning questions.
For our patrons not in the U.S., you now have the option to pay in pounds or euros, saving you the cost of the conversion fee. Annual memberships for all tiers are also now available. Those that select this option will be rewarded with a free month of membership.
For more details on all of this and specific member tiers, visit sinisterhood.com and click Patreon on the banner on the top of the screen. And make sure you stick around after our sign-offs to hear your shout-out.
So many of you have been tagging us in pictures of you sporting your sweet Sinisterhood merch. Keep those pictures coming. We recently added some new tote bags and socks, and we also have tons of cozy stuff for the winter, including beanies and sweatshirts, and they're all super cozy and warm. So if you want to get some cool Sinisterhood swag like t-shirts, totes, and even clothes for your kiddos, visit sinisterhood.com and click on shop across the top banner.
The best thing you can do to help us grow is like, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please tell a friend who you think would like us to check us out. It means so much to us and really helps small podcasts like us get more exposure.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at SinisterhoodPod and like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Christy?
I'm on Twitter at Christy or GTFO and on Instagram at Christy M. Wallace. Heather?
I'm on Twitter at MCK versus the world and on Instagram at Heather versus the world.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Hey everybody, thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Here are your special Patreon shoutouts. Katie Schwartz Drowns,
Annie Cobb,
Courtney Newman,
Kate Mott Sheehan,
David Bolden,
Nicole Kelly,
Lori Lyon,
Ann B.,
Kelly Crowley,
Karen Hochhalter,
Lynn Ellis,
and Christabel Talavera. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We couldn't do this without you. We sincerely appreciate it, especially during these trying times. We love you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep it creepy.
Sinister.